In this video, I'm sharing 11 of the weirdest, most honest questions that founders have asked me when no one else is listening, and the answers that just might set you free. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Deiss. My partners and I manage 17 companies across our $200 million holding group, and yet I still get to take at least one 30-day vacation a year. So I know a thing or two about scaling businesses without sacrificing your soul. And what I'm gonna show you now are the questions that our clients and portfolio company CEOs are too afraid to ask in public, and the answers that help them scale with sanity. Question number one, is it bad that I kinda hate my business right now? This one's really, really simple. No, it is not bad that you kinda hate your business right now. In fact, it is totally normal, especially if you're in the whole, I built this monster and now the monster is kind of eating me phase. And look, if it makes you feel any better, any parent of a teenager who doesn't acknowledge that they kinda hate their kids from time to time is lying. So look, if parents of teenagers are allowed to kind of hate their own kids from time to time, then why shouldn't you be allowed to hate your own business? Because much like that pubescent teenager, your business is in no man's land. It's in this messy middle. It's in this awkward state where it's not quite fully grown, but it's not yet a child, and it's still trying to figure out what it's gonna be, and you're the one that's caught in the middle trying to manage this dang thing. It's also highly likely, by the way, that you've just been scaling the wrong thing, namely your labor, instead of scaling the right thing, your systems and your team. And I want you to know it's fixable, but you've gotta stop pretending that just doing more of what got you where you are is gonna be the thing that will get you to that next level. Because look, you're finite, your hours are finite. So if you wanna fall in love with your business again, sorry, but you're gonna need to fall in love with systems. That's just how it works. Can I scale without hiring people I wanna punch in the face? Now this one's fun because there's actually two types of people that we wanna punch in the face. And those types are, number one, people who are nothing like us. They're people who are nothing like us and they totally grate on us. And the other type, funny enough, are people who are exactly like us. And so yes, you can absolutely build a team of people that you don't want to punch in the face, but only if you stop hiring clones of yourself. And this is difficult because in the early days, it's exactly what we do. But look, the right team isn't just a bunch of mini-me's. It is the combination of complementary skill sets plus shared values. And that's that second one, the shared values, that's really, really, really important, because oftentimes when we say, I don't like this person, I wanna punch this person in the face, it's less about their personality, and it's more about that they simply value things that are different than what we value. So you wanna make sure in the interview process that you're interviewing for things like, what do they value? What are they doing in their spare time? And you wanna make sure that you're simply aligned on those things. That being said, if you're constantly frustrated, there's a really good chance that you're hiring for personality instead of performance. Because I can tell you from experience, it is really easy to like somebody who's making you money, even if they are a little bit annoying. Can I be the face of the brand but not talk to anyone? Yes and no. You can be the man behind the curtain. You remember Wizard of Oz? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right?
Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
So you can be that man or that woman behind the curtain. You just can't forget to build the great and powerful Oz that everyone else sees on the outside. And I think it's important to acknowledge the distinction between visibility and availability. Oftentimes, a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs are like me. We're introverts, and we sometimes struggle with being out there in front, both the front and the face of the brand, but also the front and the face of the company. Visibility does not necessarily have to equal availability. So what I want you to think about is, what is your ideal role? And what does it look like to be loud strategically? And then what does it look like to kind of retreat into your cave or your nap pod or your sensory deprivation tank in peace? Because the nice thing is that at scale, one of the most important roles, if not the most important roles of a CEO, and especially founder CEOs, is to serve as the spokesperson of the brand, both internally and externally. But just because you're the person speaking on behalf of the brand doesn't mean that everybody gets to speak back to you. This is where you can have an executive leadership team, you can have operators, they can be the filters, they can be the go-between when you're talking directly to them. That's how I set up. Do I need to start a podcast to scale? I get this question a lot. I get it because these days it seems like everyone has a podcast, but no, you don't need a podcast. And we're talking about a podcast right now, but really you could replace podcasts with just about anything, right? You could replace it with like, do I need to be on YouTube? Like what I'm doing right now. Do I need to do public speaking? Do I need to write a book? Don't do it because you should do the thing. What you need is customers. If a podcast is gonna get you customers, great. If not, it's just kind of content guru cosplay. You're like live action role playing business. So we're not gonna pretend business, we're gonna actually do business. So what you need to figure out is what is the one thing that your business needs most from you right now? If the one thing that it most needs from you right now is to be out in the front, representing the brand, then by all means, perhaps you should be on podcasts. Now, you doing your own podcast, look, for most business owners, for most founders, for most CEOs, no. Should you be out there in other people's podcasts? Maybe. But we're gonna start with the question of, are we supply constrained or are we demand constrained? And then what is the action or activity that you should take or help your team facilitate to unbottleneck that constraint? We are not gonna lead with tactics. We're going to lead with what is the constraint in our business. The tactics will all follow, podcasts and other things like that included. What is the weirdest thing that helped you scale? I like this question because I ask people kind of the weirdest question, what's some weird question that you're afraid to ask me? And they kind of put it back on me and said, I wanna know from you, Ryan, what's a weird thing that helped you scale? So I'm gonna answer it. And the weirdest thing that helped me scale are these things right here. Sticky notes. I use sticky notes basically all day, every day for pretty much everything. I use sticky notes when I'm reading books to mark pages. I use sticky notes when we're mapping value engines and business process maps. If you know anything about me, that's what we're really big at. Sticky notes are how we visualize the value creation process of a business. And one of the things that I've always said is you cannot optimize until you first visualize. And there's just something magical, especially in our time when everybody is doing everything digitally. If you can just get people in a room and you can get them coming up with ideas and you can get them writing down a singular idea or a singular step on a sticky note, the ability to move these things around, to clump them together, I don't know. To me, it's just the most efficient tool that I've used, and sticky notes have probably made me more money than just about any other tool out there. Do I have to become a cult leader to scale? Kind of, I mean, a little bit. What you need is you need a clear mission, right? You need a clear mission, and you are going to need some rituals, and you are going to need a shared language. You're gonna need shared values. Now, we don't need to do like chanting and kumbaya stuff. We don't need to go out on these like retreats and do trust falls. Certainly no Kool-Aid is required. But yes, look, if you want to scale beyond you, then what you're gonna need to do is export your way of thinking. Because at the end of the day, businesses scale at the rate of good decision making. And to the extent that you're good at making good decisions, we're gonna have to scale the way that you think. Now, to me, that doesn't rise to the level of cult leadership, but yes, we're gonna definitely have to get your people thinking the way that you think. Is that cult leadership? I don't think so. Does it kind of adopt certain characteristics of it? Sure. Why do I feel guilty when I'm not working? Right, this is a big one. I know I felt this, you probably felt this too. All right, we're gonna just go right at it, all right? The reason that you feel guilty when you are not working is because your identity is tied to being the one who does everything. It's an identity issue. And the issue is that wiring runs really, really, really deep, especially for accidental entrepreneurs like us. So people like us who didn't necessarily start out strategically to launch this company, right? We didn't have the perfect business plan and go and raise a bunch of money and get a bunch of help. More times than not, it was just us. And so we started doing the thing that we were doing and it started working. And so we kind of pulled some people in to help because it was working, and we sort of looked around, and next thing you know, there's all these people standing around us. They're expecting us to do stuff, so we want to look busy so that they stay busy. And so it just kind of becomes an aspect of our identity. And the issue is that in the early days, it's exactly what is needed. But at scale, the opposite is true, and that's what nobody tells us. Nobody says that the game has changed and the playbook changes, because at scale, you're not actually rewarded for your effort, you're rewarded for your ownership. You're specifically your ownership over the systems. So the business piece is very fixable, but it's only fixable, it's only doable if you're also willing to fix the story that you tell about yourself and what makes you valuable. If the only way that you see value in yourself is in the amount of work that you put out, then you're probably always going to be stuck because you're always going to be, feel guilty about not working. If instead you can see value in the total output of your company, not just in your specific labor, then yep, by all means, it's fixable and you can absolutely get past feeling guilty for not working. My business makes money, I don't. Am I the product? And the answer is you might be. You might be, especially if you're selling you instead of selling outcomes. Because scale happens when you turn your magic trick, the voodoo that you do so well, into a repeatable system, not just when you keep performing nightly shows for peanuts and applause. And again, this is really difficult. This is really challenging because in the early days, we're rewarded for it. We're rewarding for our magic tricks. And if we're being honest, we kind of enjoy the applause. We sort of like being the product because the product is what gets praised. And so, yeah, look, if your business is making money and you're not, it's because you are actually in service to your business. Your business isn't in service to you because you're the product. Now, it's also possible that you're just stuck in no man's land. So maybe that's not the issue. You're just stuck in no man's land. And that's that period between 2 million and 6 million in revenue, where frankly, you just have all the expenses and all the complexities of an 8-figure business with the revenue of a 7-figure business. So maybe you're not necessarily the product. You're just kind of in this awkward tweener land. And in this case, you likely have a lot of paper profit. You look at your P&L and it's like, well, we're doing well, but your cash flow is suffering because you're always having to put that money back into more growth, feed the beast, feed the machine. The way that we get out of this, probably need like 3 to 5 people, 3 to 5 critical roles, functional roles. Maybe it's a really good marketing person or a really good salesperson or a really good ops person. The problem is that you can't afford them at this stage. So your options are, number one, you can raise capital or you can go and get debt. You can effectively buy today what you can't afford. It is an option, it's just not a great option. The second thing that you can do, and this is probably what you're doing right now, is you can work at about 110%. You can redline it and just hope that you scale through it before everyone burns out. More times than not, we don't actually know what it takes to scale to the next level. We've never been there before, and nobody on our team has ever been there before. So we're having to work extra hard to try to achieve something that we don't know how to do. So we likely don't achieve it the first time. And so we have to go back to the drawing board again and again and again and again. And just usually people burn out. They flame out, whether it's you or people on your team, and then we just like, forget it, I'm out. So that's not really a great option either. The third option and the best option, the one that we do, is just to turn your attention to systems and automation so you and your team can achieve that 110% output with 80% of the input. But most business owners don't take it because they either don't know how, they don't know it's available, or they don't believe that it would work for them because they believe that their business isn't systemizable. So those are your options. If you're feeling like a product, you don't have to, you shouldn't. I hope that you don't. If you're in this business, you're in it to make some money. So God dang it, let's figure out how to do that. Can I fire everyone and replace them with automations and AI? And my cousin Chad. I love this one. I wonder if this person actually has a cousin, Chad. So can you do it? Yep. But boy, Chad better be really good at like APIs and Zapier and things like that. Now look, scale really isn't about replacing humans. And as big a fan as I am of artificial intelligence, AI, I'm an even bigger fan still of that other kind of AI, which is actual intelligence. Best ingredient I've ever seen for scale is a well-equipped, well-trained human being who knows what they're doing and truly gives a damn. If I don't have to do it, it's automated. And there's a whole lot of ways that I cannot do something. What I can tell you doesn't work is just duct taping things together, handing it off to a family member and guilting them into running it. That won't work. So no, don't bring Chad on. Don't do it. How do I scale without turning into a corporate robot? Yeah, we hear this a lot. People thinking that scale equals losing your soul. And it doesn't have to. You can absolutely build a business with personality, and you should. So does it happen? Yeah. Does it have to happen? No. And furthermore, you don't want it to happen. So we want to make sure that you're building with personality. You're making weird videos like this one, that you and your team are writing like a human, that you're firing bad clients so you're not pulled in directions that you don't want to go, that you're hiring people that laugh at your jokes. So scaling doesn't mean stripping out the soul. What it really means is building a machine that reflects your values so that you can scale your soul. Now, we have a framework at the Scalable company that we use to accomplish this. We call it the Clarity Compass. I've done another video on it. Maybe we can link to it down in the descriptions or somewhere. But the basic idea is you want to provide a framework for decision making. And we call it the Clarity Compass because at the north is your company's goal, like your revenue and your profitability goal. This is where we're headed. This is what we want to achieve in the next 3 years. Then at the south, what we have is your company purpose. So this is why we exist. How do you make sure that you scale without becoming a corporate robot? The first thing that you do is you hire people who are bought into that company purpose, who they get excited about it too. Businesses get off track for 2 reasons. They get off track and they lose their soul because they hire people who don't reflect the company values. And the reason they hire people that don't reflect the company values is because they don't know what the company values are. In many cases, the company hasn't written them down, or they have, and the company values are stuff like honesty, integrity. You might as well say respirates, right? Like those don't mean anything. When we talk about, hey, I don't want to lose my soul, I don't want to lose the personality, great, I love it. What does that mean for you? Like, what does that specifically mean for you? So get down to the human level, the people, the founding team, you as the founder. What defines you? What makes you unique? And what are those pieces that you want to keep embedded into the company? The other way that they get off track, so we're going to list the values, over here on the east, and then over here on the west part of the Clarity Compass. This is where we're going to list what we call our strategic anchors. These are simply the things that we're good at, our competitive advantages. Let's make sure that we stay in our lane. Let's make sure that we're playing to our strengths. So we're going to list out what are our strengths, what are the things that we're good at. If we've got a clear goal, if we've got a purpose pushing us towards that goal, and we've got 2 things that are keeping us on track, our values and our strategic anchors, our strengths. This is how we make sure that we never lose our souls. That's one idea. That's one framework. Hopefully that helps. All right, last question. Question number 11. Can I just burn it all down and start over? I actually get this question a lot. And the answer is yes, of course you can. It is your business. You can do with it as you please. What I will tell you is it is usually easier to fix than it is to flee. And in my experience, most founders don't need a new business. What they need is they need a new role inside their current one. And sometimes all they need is just a new vacation. But what I've seen is the business is fine. Like really, if they take a step back and they look at their business, they don't necessarily hate their business. They hate the role that they have assumed within their business. So if you're kind of here right now, I want you to take a step back and I want you to ask this question. What would need to be true about the products we sell, the services we deliver, the customers we serve, and the work I get to do each and every day for me to fall in love with my business again? I want you to really think about that question. I want you to answer it, and then I want you to set about redesigning the business to achieve it. I've seen founders fall in love with their business almost immediately because they see a path there. And again, I'm just gonna say this, what you probably just need is a vacation, right? Let's take a couple weeks to really think about this, because sometimes we come back and we go, you know what, I'm ready to get to work again. Hey, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed these questions, let me know down in the comments. We can do more just like it. And if you like this, again, subscribe for more videos. Some are like this, some are more tactical. We like to have fun with these. We just like to help out entrepreneurs and speak some truth and maybe some encouragement into their world. And if you want help, we talked about systems a lot in this, and you heard kind of a recurring theme was systems as the solution. It's because it is, and that's what we do at the Scalable company. So if you want help building these systems into your business so that you can scale without burnout, check the link down in the description. Love to talk to you about how to do that. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.